Her book was, among many other splendid things, very personal, dark, and twisted, and my friend was concerned that it was too much, that it was crossing the line, that she was exposing herself as a giant, weirdo, pervert freak. This brings up something that's so important to have a firm grasp on if you're going to get anywhere near reaching your full potential in this life as a writer, an artist, a business person, a parent, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, or as a fully realized and evolved human being in general. Do not waste your precious time giving one single crap about what anybody else thinks of you. Imagine how liberating that would be. Other people's opinions motivate every move we make in our teens and our 20s. And as we age, if we're moving in the right direction, our obsession with how we're perceived by others begins to trickle away. But very few of us are able to escape its pointless grasp completely. Meanwhile, the truth is, the only questions you ever need to consider when making decisions about your life are: 1. Is this something I want to be, do, or have? 2. Is this going to take me in the direction I want to go, not should go? 3. Is this going to screw over anybody else in the process? The definition of screwing someone over is taking their money and doing a lousy job, or destroying their water source, or enslaving populations, things like that. Your mother being disappointed, or your father disapproving, or your friends being outraged does not qualify as screwing someone over. We throw a wet blanket of ho-hummery over our lives when we live in fear of what others might think instead of in celebration of who we are. Yes, it's part of our survival instinct to care. Get booted from the tribe and you'll freeze to death or starve or be eaten by wolves. But because we have big brains and the ability to manifest anything we set our minds to, there is another version that's equally plausible. Get booted from the tribe and start or find another tribe that's more your style. You could not only wind up doing what you love, surrounded by people you adore, who you actually relate to, but you might one day realize you can no longer remember the names of the people whose approval you so desperately thought you would die without. Nobody who ever accomplished anything big or new or worth raising a celebratory fist in the air did it from their comfort zone. They risked ridicule and failure and sometimes even death. Think of the Wright brothers. Can you imagine how that whole thing went down? Margaret: did you hear about poor Susan? Ruth: Susan Wright? Helen: such a disgrace. Poor thing. Ruth: what happened? Margaret: well, her sons. Helen: as if she hasn't suffered enough already, birthing 2 boys as big as buffaloes, and now this. Margaret: seems her 2 sons. Helen: you going to eat the rest of your tapioca pudding? Mind if I help myself? Ruth: tell me already, Margaret. Margaret: well, this is going to sound as crazy as it is, but they. Helen: and now her sons think they can fly. Such a shame. Margaret: her sons think they can fly. Ruth: think they can fly? Margaret: yes, they think they can fly. They talk of nothing else. Helen: she just had the house painted, too. They'll probably have to move out of town now. Once you step away from the herd and let your true self shine, you'll probably find yourself in front of the opinion firing squad, especially if you want to do is extraordinary and outside of everyone's comfort zones, which is why so many people run screaming from the lives they'd so love to live. Merely allowing yourself to be seen is a risk. I mean, look at how we treat celebrities. Their every move is picked apart and passed around and discussed and judged and photographed without makeup on. It's a wonder that only half of them spend time in rehab. You are responsible for what you say and do. You are not responsible for whether or not people freak out about it. 2 people can walk out of the same movie, one person clinging to the walls, bloodshot and devastated, leaving a trail of tissues, more moved by this film than any other film in the history of cinema, while the other person goes marching up to the ticket counter and demands her money back because she thought it was the worst piece of garbage to ever be projected onto a screen. One movie, 2 very different experiences. Why? Because it's not about the movie. It's about the moviegoers. What other people think about you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. The trick is to not only deny the criticism any power over you, but even more challenging, to not get caught up in the praise. There's nothing wrong with blushingly accepting a compliment, but if you find yourself always seeking outside approval that you're good enough, or cool enough, or talented enough, or worthy enough, you're screwed. Because if you base your self-worth on what everyone else thinks of you, you hand all your power over to other people and become dependent on a source outside of yourself for validation. Then you wind up chasing after something you have no control over. And should that something suddenly place its focus somewhere else, or change its mind and decide you're no longer very interesting, you end up with a full-blown identity crisis. All that matters is what's true for you, and if you can stay connected to that without straying, you will be a mighty superhero. Everything else is just other people's perception of reality, and that is none of your business. So how can you truly not care what other people think and be your most powerful self? 1. Ask yourself why. Why are you about to do or say something? Is it to be liked? To put someone down because you feel insecure? To get someone back because they made a fat joke about your mother? Or is it coming from a place of strength and truth? Are you doing it because it'll be fun? Because you feel called to do it? Because it'll change someone else's life in a positive, martyr-free way? Pay attention to your motivations and be honest. Practice coming from a place of integrity and you will be victorious. 2. Always do your best. There's no faster way to fall prey to outside input than when you're feeling insecure. And there's no better way to feel insecure than knowing you half-assed something or don't really believe in what you're doing. No matter what it is, raising your prices or raising your children, if you do the absolute best you possibly can and come from a place of integrity, then you can be proud of yourself and not give a damn what anyone else thinks. 3. Trust your intuition. Birds use their intuition to navigate their way to breeding grounds halfway around the world. Deer and rabbits and other prey-type beasts use their intuition to avoid running into predators. The average human, on the other hand, will take the advice of their drunk-before-noon neighbor across the street instead of doing what deep down we know is best. How many times have you thought in hindsight, I knew I should have listened to my gut? You have an incredible inner guidance tool that you can use whenever you need it. Tell everyone to shut up and go away. Get quiet. Give yourself room to feel and think. You have all the answers inside of you. Practice sharpening your intuition, take the time to strengthen your connection to source energy, and trust that you know what's best for you. The more centered and tuned in you are, the mightier you will be. Listen for more tips on how to do this later in the book. 4. Find a temporary role model. Find a mentor or a hero or a role model. Get clear on why this person is impressive and inspiring to you, and when faced with a challenge that leaves you guessing how to react, ask yourself, what would my hero do? Not caring what others think is a muscle that can take some time to build up. So use this trick while you're still getting strong, and before you know it, you'll be able to ditch your hero and start asking yourself, what would I do? 5. Love yourself, no matter what anyone else thinks. Important note about outside opinions. While you are unauthorized to base your self-worth on what other people think, it doesn't mean you should miss out on the opportunity to benefit from outside input altogether, especially input from those who know you well. There is such a thing as constructive criticism and constructive complimenting, but whether or not they are constructive depends on you. For example, if people have been telling you for years that you're a hothead, that they feel they can't be open with you because the second you disagree with them you blow up in their faces, ask yourself, is this true? Be honest. Can I use this information to better myself and the lives of others? If the answer is yes, commit to making the necessary changes. If the answer is no, let it go. Same goes for compliments. If people constantly tell you that you're a good listener, ask yourself, is this compliment true for me? Can I use this information to better myself and the lives of others? Again, if the answer is yes, figure out how you can capitalize on it. If the answer is no, let it go. Sometimes it's easier for other people to see what we can't see ourselves. So if they can help us connect with our truths and live happier, more authentic lives, then it's worth taking the time to listen. It still ultimately comes down to what's true for you, however. So the more connected to your inner truth you are, the easier it'll be to use outside opinions to your advantage, rather than let them rule your life. Chapter 8. What are you doing here? The big question is whether you're going to be able to say a hearty yes to your adventure. Joseph Campbell. American mythologist, and author whose books and ideas influenced the making of Star Wars. Getting clear about what your unique purpose is can be the difference between living a happy, fulfilled life of abundance, choice, and expansiveness, or living in the restrictive veal pen of your own indecision and tired old excuses. A gift, of course, is meant to be given, which is why it's so brutal when we can't figure out what ours is, or when we know what it is, but we're too lame to act on it. Here we have the perfect gift to share with the world, just bursting to be opened, and we keep it sitting there, wrapped tightly in a box, growing old and gathering dust. Oh, the waste, the agony. Meanwhile, the joy of giving someone the perfect gift is unparalleled. We all know how it feels, hopping back and forth from foot to foot, wringing our hands, practically peeing in our pants, begging them to open it. Open it already! Jesus H. Christ. Here, let me freaking do it. The power of giving is so strong that the excitement and the good feelings are often greater for the giver than for the receiver. Which is why, when you find your calling and you design your life in such a way that you can share your gifts with the world on a consistent basis, you feel like a rock star. When we share what we were brought here to give, we are in alignment with our highest, most powerful selves. Most people, however, wander through their lives giving the tasteful candle version of their gifts. You know, they don't show up to the party empty-handed or anything. They present their somewhat flaccid gift to the world, receive a warm hug and an, "Oh, you shouldn't have," in return, but they don't knock it out of the park. For example, they get a job doing something that they either hate or that's a bit of a yawn but is, okay. It affords them a life that covers the basics as long as they don't go too crazy. They do fun stuff, but not as much as they'd like because they don't have the money, or the time, or the belief that they deserve to. They have little victories here and there. They meet their sales quota and win the 6-day cruise to the Bahamas, or rack up enough miles to go stay with their aunt and see the Olympics, or finally sit down and write an entire song that they may or may not ever record or perform. But they never truly go for it and create a life that really lights them up. They basically big snooze their lives away. Every single person is born with unique and valuable gifts to share with the world. Once we figure out what ours are and decide to live our lives putting them to use, that's when, and only when, the real party begins. Living a life on purpose is available to everyone. So if you're struggling or settling or completely confused about what you're supposed to do with your life, know that the answer is already here. It exists, and so does the life you can't wait to create. You just need to get some clarity first. There are entire books written on finding your calling, some of the best of which I share in the resources section on my website, www.jensincero.com. But the following are a few of my favorite tips. Keep in mind there's no right way to go about this. Everyone's journey is unique, but we're all trying to get to the same place, the place where we feel happiest, the most alive, and the most like ourselves. Even if you've nailed the perfect career for yourself, listen on because these tips can help you in all areas of your life. How to get clear on who you are and what your calling is. 1. Be the alien. Imagine that you're an alien floating around in outer space, and you suddenly swoop down to Earth and inhabit your own body. As the alien, everything about this life is new to you. You look around. What do you see? What is this person who you've inhabited so obviously awesome at? What do they have the most fun doing? What connections do they have? What resources and opportunities are available to them? As the alien, to whom everything is new and exciting and there's nothing at risk and no past to lug around, what are you going to do with this incredible new life you've stepped into? How are you going to use this new body and this existence to create something fabulous and awesome starting right now? This exercise is hugely helpful for getting a new perspective and stepping outside our boring-ass ruts of tired old excuses and lame habits. It can also be very useful in making you aware of all the staggering possibilities and resources that you have at your fingertips and take for granted or do not see. Sometimes it's as simple as looking at things with new eyes to see how astoundingly fortunate we are. Be the alien for 24 hours and see what you come up with. 2. Take the first right step. Instead of wasting hours and days and years trying to figure out your perfect next move, just do something already. Oh, the time we waste rolling ideas around in our heads, imagining what-ifs, coming up with the perfect reasons why and then the perfect reasons why not, tearing at our cuticles, making our friends and family carefully screen their calls in case it's us again, wanting to go over some ideas. Get out of your head and take action. You don't have to know exactly where it's going to take you. You just need to start with one thing that feels right and keep following right-feeling things and see where they lead. Most answers reveal themselves through doing, not thinking. When I discovered my calling as a coach, I was, ironically, in the midst of a lifelong obsession with figuring out what the hell my purpose was. While I always knew writing was part of it, I also knew I wasn't meant to spend my life locked away in a silent room, alone and half-crazed, wrestling words into submission. I wanted something that A, involved interacting with other people, B, helped people in some sort of direct way, C, was really fun, and D, forced me to bathe, dress, and leave my house. That's about all I had to go on. That and my intense desire to figure it out. So when a friend told me I should check out a women's entrepreneurial think tank group that had just started up, I figured I'd go. We were all supposed to bring a project to work on, but I had nothing, just the hope that I'd get some ideas from something someone else brought to the table. After sitting there for 4 weeks watching this room full of women figure out what they love to do and turn their brilliant ideas into businesses, or grow the businesses they already had, I still had no project of my own. But I did know what I wanted to do. I went up and asked the facilitator if she needed any help, which she did. She hired me, and I started leading these groups, which, after a few years, led to me starting my own coaching practice, which led to me working with clients all over the world, which led to me sitting in the studio recording this book. No matter how clueless you may feel right now, pay attention to suggestions and opportunities that suddenly present themselves, and notice how you feel. Is there something for you that, for whatever reason, feels like it might be good to check out? What have you been saying forever that you'd love to do? Has somebody mentioned a course or a teacher or a book that keeps sticking in your mind? Take the first step in the direction towards something that feels right and see where it leads you. And do it now. 3. Do your best wherever you're at. Once you take this first step, it's possible that you won't land in your dream situation right away. You might land on a stepping stone. It could be an awesome stepping stone, or it could be kind of an unawesome stepping stone. But no matter where your first step lands you, if you want to keep moving forward, appreciate wherever you're at instead of feeling ashamed or grouchy or impatient about it. Everything you do along your journey contributes to where you're going. Let's say you've decided that you're going to go after your fantasy of being a rock star, and you take a job waiting tables so you have the flexibility to travel and play gigs and go into the studio. Clearly, your calling is playing music, not being concerned that some whiny customer's French onion soup is allegedly too cold, but it's essential that you care anyway. Having a good attitude and being grateful for all the things that are helping you live the life of your dreams will not only make your life a more pleasant place to be and get you bigger tips, but it will also raise your frequency and attract the people and opportunities to you that will take you in the direction you want to go. This is where being really present in the moment comes in handy. Granted, you may not be on stage in front of thousands doing a split in the air, but remember that you are going for it. You are bravely moving towards your dream. You are surrounded by unthinkable miracles and opportunities. Lean back, relax, and be grateful that you're living on purpose, that you're hanging out in a high frequency, and that everything you need is zooming towards you. 4. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look around and see what other people are out there doing. Whose life makes you totally jealous? What things are people doing that you would love to do too? Who do you think is the coolest person ever? You don't need to invent your ideal life from scratch. You just need to figure out what makes you feel alive. So if what someone else is doing sparks your interest, take notice. It could mean that your calling has something in common with theirs. Get specific about the things in their lives that turn you on. Is it the fact that they get to travel the world? Or that they have a solid routine? Or that they have no routine? Is it that they work alone? That they work in the nude? That they get to be outside all day? That they work with their hands, their eyes, their ears, their animals, their spouse? The more specific you get, the easier it'll be to create a picture of what you want. Read magazines that interest you. Talk to as many people as you can. Hang out in places where people who share your interests hang out. Put yourself out there, and you never know what you might learn that will inform you of your next move, or whom you might meet who will present you with your next opportunity. 5. Don't get caught up in the thunderbolt hype. I think one of the most paralyzing misconceptions is that we're all supposed to have one true calling that comes to us in a mighty flash of soul-defining insight. While there are those people who've always known exactly what they want to do, there are a hell of a lot more of us out there who spend most of our lives, if not all of our lives, wandering around looking under rocks and behind trees for who we are. Let yourself off the hook if you don't have that one big, perfect thing that you know you came here to do. Same goes for finding the one big, perfect soulmate, by the way, and feel good about the fact that you'll probably fulfill several callings throughout your life and possibly relationships. If you think about it, it makes much more sense to evolve as you age anyway. When I think about who I was in my 20s compared to who I am now, I can't imagine anything more unappealing than going after some of the things that resonated with me back then. Follow what feels good in the moment, every moment, and it will lead you through a most excellent life. 6. Listen to your intuition. If you really want to get in touch with who you are and what you love to do, and who you love to do it with, dedicate some time to tuning into your intuition. One of the best ways to do this is to spend 5 minutes of quiet by yourself every day. We spend the vast majority of our time moving at full speed ahead, both physically and mentally, and we literally bulldoze over the very answers we're seeking because they can't be heard above the din. When you sit quietly and ask, you get an answer. Eventually. Stick with it, be patient, and wait to hear from your inner guidance. You have all the answers you need. You just need to give them the chance to get through to you.